Yo guys, what's going on? Thanks for coming back to another episode of EV Music. And if you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay tuned for my latest videos. In today's video, we're going to be looking at some of the ideas you guys have commented, which I really appreciate those who are giving feedback. One of you guys, Mr. Creator, brought to our attention how can we record an electric piano and a guitar track at the same time. So basically, a multi-track recording. Well, if we look at a standard digital audio workstation, there are two types of tracks. One of those is an audio track, which I'm using to record right now, and the other is a MIDI track, which you can use to record electronic instruments. Today, we're going to be looking at how can we program a MIDI track inside of Swift using AudioKit. Let's get started. Okay, so first things first, I want to show you guys what the end product is going to be. So you can go ahead, head over to this website. All of these will be linked in the description below, but you can just head over to jsbach.net and go ahead, download this A version of Concerto number 1 in A minor. And once we build our application at the end, we should be able to open it up and just like that, play it. So pretty cool. So first, go ahead, head over to the AudioKit website, and it will be linked again down below. And you want to make sure you're on V5 Master and go ahead and download that as a zip. So once it's downloaded, it will look like this. Go ahead and open up that folder. You'll see a frameworks folder. So go ahead, go to the Spotlight, press Terminal, and type in CD space and drag those frameworks right into there. Press return. And now we're going to do ls just to see what's inside of here. Press return and /build frameworks.sh. Sit back, relax, and we'll come back once it's done. Once that's done, we can go ahead and run /build xc framework.sh. And this one should be a lot quicker, so don't worry about that. I know the last one was pretty long. All right, so let's go ahead now and go to examples inside the AudioKit and iOS plus Catalyst. So those of you who don't know Mac Catalyst, basically it's a tool to make it easier to develop cross-platform applications. So that means I can write an application for the iPhone and I shouldn't have to change much about it to get it to run on my Mac. So that's what that is. So go ahead, go to MIDITrackView and open that. Should open in Xcode, so make sure you have Xcode downloaded, and then go ahead, click open. And today we're not going to be building it for the iPhone, but we're going to focus on the Mac part. So I'm going to build it for my Mac. Just go ahead, press build, and now it's starting to open up. So what you'll see here is a document browser view. Now how you make a document browser view, you can go ahead, go to let's just go ahead here, go to Window, welcome to Xcode. We'll create a new project. I'm going to start out with the iOS document-based app. So go ahead and test document browser, pick a name. Team, I'm going to do my developer account and com.evanmurray.test document browser. Language is Swift. I'm going to use storyboard, include both of the tests, and just go ahead and uncheck that because I don't want a repository for this. So this is an easy way to create what's known as a document browser. And so what a document browser is it's an application that allows you to load external documents like a MIDI file. And so what we want to do with this new application we created is first make sure that we can run Mac Catalyst. So in this project view, you want to click the Mac box and enable Mac support. Yes, we want to do that. So now we can run it on the Mac. Let's go ahead and try that. As we can see here, we need something here. So we want the user selected file read app sandbox entitlement. So let's go ahead and go back to our project view, go to signing and capabilities, and we'll check user selected file. And we're gonna do read only, okay? Let's go ahead and try it again. Okay, great. So now we got our document browser window. And let's just say I want to open up this. And there we have it. It shows us a file name, and then we click done. So there's two important parts really to this application. One is, first of all, our objects that are documents. Secondly, we have our document browser view controller. So that is this thingy right here. That's this window that opens up. And third, we have our document view controller, which that's what's happening when we actually open up our file. This is our document view controller. Okay, so let's start setting this up so we can load MIDI files on it. So the first thing we want to do for that is go to the application, go to resource tags, info. And once we go to this info tab, you can see document types. We're going to add a new document type. This is going to be MIDI. And then type is going to be public.MIDI audio. Make sure you have that dash in there. Additional document property types, we'll go ahead and add ls handler rank, do alternate. Once you have that, now we should be able to open MIDI files with this application. So let's go ahead and try to do that. I'm going to run it again. Now we're going to go to the downloads, and there we go. It shows that we can open this file, and it even shows the file name. Awesome. Let's go ahead and create that window that's going to display the file. So first we'll go to the main storyboard. Then we're going to make sure the view is in Mac, since we're going to be creating this for the Mac. So go ahead, select Mac. Then once you have that, go ahead and click on the document view controller scene. So not the browser view, but the document view. And go ahead, click on these to expand that. And what we want to do is we want to delete the file name in this label. So hold down Shift and select both of them, and go ahead, just press the backspace button or delete. Should delete those. And we're also going to delete that done button. Once those are done being deleted, we can go ahead and go to this main window and set the background color to whatever we want. I'm going to set it to black. And there we have it. Let's go ahead and, oh, one more thing. We need to go to the code part of this view controller and delete the objects we also deleted inside of the view. So go ahead, delete the label. Also, any reference here to that label, we want to delete that. And we also want to delete this function that includes that done button. Just like that. Let's go ahead and try it out. Think about what it's going to do now. All right, so now we can go ahead and open that file. And just like that, we have a black window. Pretty cool. Let's put some MIDI files in there now. What we're going to do next is we're going to set some of the properties for our window here. So let's say we don't want this title bar. We can hide that property. And let's say we want our window to be a specific size. We can control that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go inside the appdelegate.swift, and we're going to create a variable that will store something called the scene for our application. So go ahead and do var scene of type UA scene. That's going to be the variable that stores our app scene. But inside this application method, when the application is being set up, we want to check if that scene exists. And so if it does, we're going to create a constant that stores that app scene temporarily. So that way inside here, so again, this is pretty confusing, but if our scene exists, this whole if statement is going to be executed. So that way, if it actually exists, it's going to set this scene variable to the scene of our app. A couple other things I wanted to point out. The reason we have a question mark at this variable is because it's optional. So technically can be set empty. So that's why we have that. And the other thing is the reason we set this up here at the top of our file is because you notice this right here is a class, and we don't want this to be part of this class because we want to just have this be public so we can use that scene instance in another file. What we want to do now is add the AudioKit frameworks to our project so we can use AudioKit. So let's go ahead, go back to the root AudioKit folder, go to frameworks, and we're going to add these Xcode frameworks. So just go ahead and drag them all the way over to this project. And yes, we want to copy the items. Make sure you check that box, very important, and add them to the application and create groups. There we have it. Now we have the frameworks. So if we go to our document view controller, now we should be able to run import AudioKit. See if it auto completes. Yay, it auto completes. So if it does that, it means that it knows that we have the frameworks. And sometimes autocomplete just doesn't work, which is kind of annoying, but oh well, just try to use it and see if it shows up. Okay, so let's try the UI one as well. Let's see if it gives us something about it. Okay, it looks like it found the frameworks. Now we're going to create a new file that's going to contain some important things for our MIDI files to load. So let's go ahead, right click, and then new file. And we're going to do Swift file and call it conductor. Or call it whatever you want, really, just keep things consistent. And in this file, we're going to need AudioKit. We're going to say class conductor. All right, so if you think about it, in a MIDI track, we really need two things to make it work. One thing we need is an instrument to play on the MIDI track, aka a sampler. So that's what we're going to create. And we also need a sequencer to get all the note data and stuff to sequence the MIDI file. So we're going to create a sequencer. And inside this class, we also need an init method, which is run once the class begins. And inside that method, we're just going to initialize both of those objects we created. So the reason we put the name for the AK sampler is because that will show the sampler as a MIDI device. So this MIDI device will be called track. You can really call it whatever you want. And next, we're going to create a method for this class that will load that sequencer with the MIDI file. So the way we do that is we point to files with the URL, and inside of this method, once we've taken that URL, we'll set the sequencer with that URL as well. Awesome. Now that we got that set up, we're going to head over to the document view controller class. That's the thing that opens when we open our MIDI file. And we're going to create an instance of that conductor class so we can have our sampler and our sequencer. So go ahead, create that conductor class right at the top here. And next, we're going to create the MIDITrackView, just like that. And now we want to define what's going to happen to the window when we access our document, basically when we click on it. So first, we want to create the window width and the window height, and we're going to initialize those to 0 at first. Then we want to check again if that app scene we created earlier, if that exists. So if it does exist, we're going to cast it to a UI window scene to control some properties of our window. And if it doesn't exist, we're going to exit out of this and keep them at 0. So let's continue on with the scenario that it does exist. If our environment is Mac Catalyst, then we're going to go ahead and set the maximum and minimum size of the window. And notice how I set them to be the same so that it's a fixed size. You can't adjust it. You can also make it so you can resize it as well. And we're also going to set the width and the height to what the current width and height of the window is. So that way we can keep these variables consistent as well. And finally, we're gonna set the properties for the title bar to be hidden as well as the toolbar. And we also want that end if. And we're gonna indent everything to make it a little bit more readable. There we have it. Everything appears to be good. So let's go ahead and see what happens when we run this. We should get a window with the size. Uh-oh. Okay, so you might get these errors, which is completely normal. You want to go to your project settings and you want to go to build settings. So we want to actually show all here. And then we want to search for other linker flags right here. And basically you want to set this field, you want to double click on it and you want to add a new entry and do -LC++ and then -all_load. And what that's going to do is it's going to link the C++ libraries, which AudioKit depends on. So we need to do that. Let's try it again. Awesome, it's working. Cool, let's try it out. And there we have it, a blank window. That's the size we wanted. So now we're going to jump back to the document view controller. And at the bottom of the file, you'll notice this success part. That's where the document will actually load if it's actually existing, if it's successful, right? So what we want to do there is first we want to check and see if that document has a file URL. And if it does, we're going to do all this stuff. So we're going to load the conductor with that file URL. Remember, we created that load sequencer with file function. And then after that, we're basically going to load the content of the document inside of this statement. So here we're actually going to check two things. One is if the window height and the window width are both not equal to 0, basically we have set them up here, then we're actually going to do something different than what we're going to do down here. So this is basically, are we running Mac Catalyst or are we running the iOS version? Because we got to do different things then. Today we're going to be focusing on the part that happens when we're running Mac Catalyst, which we are right now because we're building it for the Mac. So what we're going to do then, if that happens, is we're going to do self.MIDITrack. So we're going to set our MIDI track, which is going to be the MIDITrackView. And autocomplete should help us out. So we want to choose this one. And the frame, we're just going to do CGRect. And that will give us the X, the Y, the width, and the height. So we want to position the track center in the window. So the X, 0. The Y is also going to be 0. And then the width, that's going to be our window width. And then the height is going to be our window height. Just like that. And then our MIDI file is going to be that MIDI file URL. And the track number, we can put whatever we want. So maybe I want to do track 2 this time. In the sampler, it's going to be conductor.sampler. In the sequencer, conductor.sequencer. And finally, to see our MIDI track, we want to add it to the view of our document view controller. So we want to do self.view.add subview, and then we want to do self.MIDITrack. And finally, we want to play the track, right? So we're going to do self.MIDITrack.play. There we have it. It's that easy to create a MIDI track with AudioKit. Let's see what it sounds like. Wow, that's pretty cool. So next week, we're going to focus on building the iOS version of this, right, in this else part here. And also, I apologize, but I'm running out of time, so I didn't get to the part where we can load multiple MIDI tracks. But I challenge you guys to see if you can do that on your own, and we'll learn more about that next week. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave a like if this video was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.